Have you ever walked into a supermarket for a carton of milk and walked out with 3 bags full of things you never planned to buy, or opened your phone just to check the weather, then suddenly realized an hour had disappeared? Or met someone for the first time and decided within seconds whether you liked them, even before they spoke more than a few words? Here's the unsettling part. Most of us believe we make decisions based on logic. We tell ourselves we're independent thinkers, that our opinions are our own, that we choose freely. But what if many of your daily decisions were quietly influenced by forces you rarely notice? Invisible forces. Forces hidden inside your brain, inside your environment, inside the people around you, even inside the stories you've been hearing since childhood. The strange truth is this: the human brain evolved to help us survive, not necessarily to help us think perfectly. Because of that, our minds rely on shortcuts. Some of these shortcuts are incredibly useful. Others quietly shape our choices without asking for permission. Today, we're going to uncover those hidden influences. You'll discover why you often buy things you don't need, why changing one tiny detail can completely alter your decisions, why emotions often defeat logic, and most importantly, how to recognize these invisible forces before they make choices for you. Because once you see them, you can never unsee them. Let's begin. Imagine you're driving home after work. You've driven the same route hundreds of times. Suddenly you arrive in your driveway, but you barely remember the trip. You weren't asleep. You weren't unconscious. Your brain simply switched to autopilot. This happens more often than we realize. The brain consumes an enormous amount of energy. Even though it represents only a small portion of your body weight, it uses a surprising share of your daily energy. So it constantly looks for ways to conserve effort. Instead of carefully analyzing every decision, it creates mental shortcuts. Psychologists call these heuristics. Think of them as quick rules your brain uses to make fast decisions. Most of the time, they're helpful. Without them, everyday life would become exhausting. Imagine analyzing every single step before crossing the street, or calculating the perfect breakfast every morning. You'd never get anything done. But shortcuts also create blind spots. For example, if someone is wearing a white lab coat, many people instinctively assume they're knowledgeable, even if they've never spoken a word. If a restaurant has a long line, people often assume the food must be excellent. If thousands of people like a video, many viewers automatically expect it to be worth watching. None of these conclusions are guaranteed to be true. Yet our brains jump there almost instantly. Companies understand this. Advertisers understand this. Politicians understand this. Social media platforms certainly understand this. Because if they can influence your shortcuts, they can influence your decisions. The remarkable thing is, most of us never notice it's happening. We simply feel like the decision was ours. And in many ways, it was. But the path toward that decision was carefully shaped before we even realized it. That is the first invisible force. Your brain's desire to save energy. And it's only the beginning. Imagine 2 identical people, same personality, same income, same goals. Now place one of them in a room filled with healthy food, fresh fruit, water, bright lighting, exercise equipment. Place the other person in a room filled with candy, soft drinks, comfortable couches, and constant television. Who is more likely to make healthier choices? Most people answer immediately. The first person. But here's the important lesson. Nothing changed about the people. Only the environment changed. We often believe success depends entirely on discipline, but environment quietly shapes behavior every single day. Researchers have repeatedly found that small environmental changes can dramatically influence decisions. If healthy food is placed at eye level, people choose it more often. If unhealthy snacks are difficult to reach, consumption drops. If your phone sits beside your bed, you'll probably check it before getting up. If it's charging across the room, you might begin your morning differently. This is why many productive people don't rely entirely on willpower. Instead, they design their surroundings. Because they understand something powerful. Willpower gets tired. Environment keeps working 24 hours a day. Your surroundings are always voting. Every object either supports your future or quietly pulls you away from it. Look around your room, your desk, your kitchen, your phone screen. Each one is encouraging certain behaviors without saying a single word. Invisible force number 2, your environment is constantly making decisions easier or harder, and often you don't even notice. Imagine you're walking through an unfamiliar city looking for a place to eat. You see 2 restaurants sitting side by side. The first one is nearly empty. The second has people waiting outside, chatting, laughing, and willing to stand in line. Without reading the menu, which one would you probably choose? For many people, the answer is obvious: the busy restaurant. Not because they've tasted the food, not because they've spoken to the chef, but because other people's choices send a powerful signal. Deep inside the human brain lives an ancient instinct. If everyone else is doing it, it must be safe. Thousands of years ago, this shortcut helped our ancestors survive. If the group suddenly ran away, stopping to ask questions could be deadly. Following the crowd often meant staying alive. Today, the dangers have changed, but the instinct remains. We still look to other people for clues about what is correct, acceptable, or valuable. This invisible force appears everywhere. Millions of views on a video make it seem more trustworthy. Hundreds of 5-star reviews make a product feel safer to buy. A packed concert makes an artist appear more successful. A long waiting list makes something feel more valuable. Notice what happened. Nothing about the product changed. Only your perception changed. Social media amplifies this effect. Every day, people see carefully edited versions of other people's lives. Luxury vacations, perfect relationships, dream careers, expensive homes, happy family moments. What rarely appears are the arguments, the stress, the failures, the loneliness, or the uncertainty behind the camera. Yet our brains compare our everyday reality with someone else's highlight reel. Without realizing it, we begin changing our own goals. Maybe you suddenly want a bigger house, a different career, a new phone, a luxury watch. Not because you truly needed those things, but because repeated exposure quietly reshaped your definition of success. This phenomenon happens so gradually that it feels like your own idea. That is what makes it so powerful. The people around you influence your ambitions, your habits, your spending, your confidence, even your beliefs. Think about your closest friends. What topics do they constantly discuss? What habits do they encourage? Do they inspire curiosity or constant complaints? Do they celebrate learning or make fun of anyone trying to improve? Human behavior spreads like ripples in water. Optimism spreads. Pessimism spreads. Kindness spreads. Fear spreads. Generosity spreads. So does anxiety. You become more like the people you spend the most time with. Not overnight, but one conversation, one shared habit. It's simply following ancient survival instincts. The challenge is that modern life constantly competes for your emotional attention. Every notification, every breaking news alert, every dramatic headline asks your brain the same question. Should you pay attention to me? If the answer is yes too often, your attention becomes fragmented. Instead of focusing deeply on one meaningful task, your mind jumps from one emotional trigger to another. Learning to pause before reacting is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. Not every notification deserves your attention. Not every opinion deserves your energy. Sometimes protecting your focus is one of the healthiest decisions you can make. Many people take pride in being good at multitasking, answering emails while attending meetings, watching television while scrolling through social media, listening to a podcast while writing a report. It feels productive. But your brain tells a different story. Research has shown that what we call multitasking is usually rapid task switching. Your attention jumps from one activity to another over and over again. Each switch carries a hidden cost. Imagine reading a fascinating book. Just as the story becomes exciting, someone interrupts you every 30 seconds. Eventually, reading becomes frustrating. That's exactly what happens inside your brain when you're constantly switching tasks. Each interruption forces your mind to reload information. That takes time, It also drains mental energy. This is why a 5-second notification can disrupt your concentration for several minutes. Even after the notification disappears, part of your brain is still thinking about it. Did someone reply? Should I answer now? What if it's important? Meanwhile, your original task receives only partial attention. Imagine receiving an email from your boss. The subject line reads, "We need to talk." Instantly, your heart beats a little faster. Your mind starts racing. Did I make a mistake? Am I in trouble? Am I about to lose my job? A few minutes later, you open the email. It simply says, "Can you stop by my office this afternoon? I'd like to discuss your ideas for the new project." Nothing bad happened, yet your body reacted long before you knew the facts. This is one of the most powerful invisible forces shaping your decisions. Your emotions. We like to think of ourselves as rational creatures, but neuroscience suggests something different. Emotions often arrive first. Logic usually arrives later to explain the decision we've already started making. Think about the last time you bought something expensive. Maybe it was a new phone, a designer jacket, a luxury watch, or a new car. Did you buy it only because of its technical specifications? Probably not. Maybe it made you feel successful. Maybe it represented freedom. Maybe it reminded you of someone you admired. Maybe it simply brought excitement after a stressful week. Companies understand this remarkably well. That's why advertisements rarely focus only on features. Instead, they sell feelings. A sports car isn't just transportation. It's confidence, adventure, status, freedom. A cup of coffee isn't only about caffeine. It's comfort, connection, a peaceful morning, a moment that belongs only to you. Our brains naturally attach emotions to objects, places, and experiences. And once an emotion becomes attached, it quietly influences future decisions. This is why nostalgia is so powerful. A certain song can instantly transport you back to high school. The smell of fresh bread can remind you of your grandparents' kitchen. An old photograph can make you smile or bring tears to your eyes. The object itself hasn't changed. Your emotional memory gives it meaning. Fear is another emotion that quietly shapes our choices. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of looking foolish. Fear often whispers convincing stories. Don't apply for that job. Don't ask that question. Don't start the business. Don't speak up. The strange thing is, fear often feels like wisdom, but they are not the same. Wisdom evaluates evidence. Fear imagines worst-case scenarios. Another powerful emotion is excitement. Excitement can be wonderful. It inspires creativity, adventure, growth. But excitement can also reduce careful thinking. Have you ever bought something during a limited-time sale, only to realize later you didn't actually need it? The countdown timer created urgency. Urgency created emotion. Emotion reduced careful analysis. The purchase felt necessary in the moment. Hours later, it felt unnecessary. This is why many financial experts recommend waiting before making large purchases. Sleep on it. Walk away. Give your emotional brain time to settle. When strong emotions fade, clearer thinking often appears. Here's a simple habit that can change your decision-making. The next time you face an important choice, ask yourself, what emotion am I feeling right now? Not, what should I do? First ask, what am I feeling? Stress, excitement, loneliness, anger, fear, joy? Simply naming the emotion creates a small pause. And sometimes, that pause is enough to keep the emotion from making the decision for you. Because emotions are incredible advisors, but they are not always reliable leaders. And there is one final invisible force that quietly influences almost every decision you make. The stories you tell yourself. Those silent conversations happening inside your mind every single day. In the next part, you'll discover why changing your inner story can completely change the direction of your life. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine two people standing at the edge of the exact same opportunity. Both receive an invitation to give a presentation in front of a large audience. The first person thinks, this is my chance to grow. I might make mistakes, but I'll learn something valuable. The second person thinks, I'm terrible at public speaking. Everyone will judge me. I'll probably embarrass myself. The situation is identical. The opportunity is identical. But the outcome will likely be very different. Why? Because before we act in the world, we act inside our minds. Every day, each of us carries on an invisible conversation. Sometimes we barely notice it. Yet it quietly shapes how we see ourselves, other people, and what's possible. Maybe you've caught yourself saying things like, I'm just not good with money. I'm too old to start over. I'm not creative. People like me never succeed. I'm always unlucky. At first, these sound like harmless observations, but over time they become something more powerful. They become identity. And once an idea becomes part of your identity, your brain begins searching for evidence to prove it true. If you believe you're bad with money, every financial mistake feels like confirmation. If you believe you're not athletic, every difficult workout becomes proof. If you believe you're not confident, every awkward conversation reinforces the story. Meanwhile, your successes are often ignored. Your brain quietly filters them out because they don't fit the narrative. Psychologists call this confirmation bias. We naturally notice information that supports what we already believe, and overlook information that challenges it. It's one reason people with completely opposite opinions can watch the same event and walk away with entirely different conclusions. Their minds weren't just observing reality. They were interpreting it through different stories. Here's a simple example. Imagine buying a blue car. Before owning it, you hardly noticed blue cars on the road. Now, suddenly, they seem to be everywhere. Did thousands of blue cars appear overnight? Of course not. Your attention changed. The same thing happens with your beliefs. If your inner story says, the world is full of opportunities, you'll begin noticing opportunities that others overlook. If your story says, nothing ever works out for me, your attention will naturally focus on disappointments instead. Neither story captures the whole truth, but each one creates a very different experience of life. The encouraging news is this: stories can be rewritten, not with empty positive thinking, not by pretending problems don't exist, but by choosing a more accurate and empowering narrative. Instead of saying, I'm terrible at this, try saying, I'm still learning this. Instead of, I always fail, try, I've failed before, but I've also learned. Instead of, I'm not the kind of person who can do that, try, I haven't become that person yet. One small word can change everything. Yet, it transforms a permanent identity into a temporary stage, and that tiny shift opens the door to growth. Now think back to everything we've explored. Your brain uses shortcuts. Your environment shapes your habits. Other people influence your behavior. Your emotions often decide before your logic does. And your inner stories quietly guide your future. These invisible forces are always present. The goal isn't to eliminate them. That's impossible. The goal is to become aware of them. Because awareness creates choice. When you recognize what's influencing you, you regain the ability to pause, reflect, and decide intentionally. That is where real freedom begins. Not in controlling everything around you, but in understanding what is happening within you. The next time you make a decision, whether it's buying something, changing careers, starting a relationship, or simply reacting to a difficult situation, pause for just a moment. Ask yourself, is this my own decision, or am I being influenced by my surroundings? Am I responding with logic or with emotion? What story am I telling myself right now? Is that story helping me grow or holding me back? You may be surprised by the answers. The invisible forces shaping your decisions will never completely disappear. They are part of being human. But once you learn to recognize them, they lose much of their power. And every time you choose with greater awareness, you take one more step toward becoming the author of your own life. Instead of simply reacting to the forces around you. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this video helped you see your own thinking in a new way, remember to share it with someone who might benefit from it too. Be sure to subscribe and hit like button.